Ken Allison with IDI. Today we are going to be looking at the largest hole in the ceiling on a house. We're actually going to look through a home performance retrofit. We're not going to actually do the retrofit today, but we are going to seal the largest hole in this house, or in the ceiling at least, which would happen to be the attic hatch. But before that, we're going to turn on the blower door, we're going to use the infrared camera, and we're going to look for where the leakage is. They've done a pretty good job of sealing, but one of the challenges of this property, I want you to take a look at this. There is not actually a door to the basement. So instead of just counting the finished square footage, there's a return in the basement, there's also supply in the basement, so we're going to need to count that square footage as we look for leakage because we can't seal it off. So with that being said, let's get our blower door set up. So now that we have our blower door set up, we can actually take a look at what happens with the door itself. So you saw me put the cables in on top of the manometer here. The red goes to the red, the yellow goes to the yellow, the Cat 5 cable goes in the center. And what we've done on here is put in the volume of the house and then the square footage of the house. Now down here on the fan, you'll actually notice it's pretty easy to do this. You just put the yellow tube on the yellow portal and the Cat 5 cable in there. This red tube goes to the outside. If you saw me go through the blower door, what you're going to see there is I actually took the time to throw that red tube off to the side so that when we turn the fan on, the fan does not give us a false reading. Now the first thing we've got to do, it could be windy outside, there could be a lot of things going on. So we want to first go to the settings button on here. That's here on the lower right. We're going to hit the settings button and notice I've got everything covered on the fan. We're trying to see if there's a pressure difference between inside and outside. So I want to give the fan a chance to take that. The very first line here on my manometer is baseline. It says none taken. Well, I've got that in there, so I want to see if I can capture a baseline. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I'm going to hit capture baseline. I want to give it about 15 seconds to 1 minute. It depends on how windy it is outside, how much it's fluctuating, if I'm just getting a lot of different breezes going by. So all I'm looking for is a pressure difference inside to outside. There's not much wind outside right now, so we're barely showing 0.1 pascals. So we're going to go ahead and end the capture on the baseline and go back to the front. What that does is zero out the manometer. It's kind of like zeroing out a scale. So now that we've done that, now we can actually start putting the house under pressure. I'm not actually testing this home, I'm evaluating this home. If I were testing this house, my next thing to do is go around and check the windows, check the doors, check everything. I need to do that anyway, but also to turn the water heater to pilot, turn off the furnace, things like that. What I'm actually going to do, we've already checked, and I'll show you pictures of it. The furnace is a 96% furnace. It gets its air from outside. It's a closed combustion appliance. Therefore, we don't need to worry about the furnace because it's not getting air from inside for making flames or for creating fresh air. All of the fresh air for this house is coming from outside. It's brought in through a tube, and the exhaust for the furnace goes out through a PVC tube and it brings in its own air. The hot water heater works the same, or I should say the water heater works the same. So with that, we're going to go ahead and check everything around the house real quick, make sure the doors are closed, the windows are closed. We're going to turn off the HVAC system, and then we're going to go ahead and put the house under a little bit of pressure and see where the leaks are. We can tell what's sealed and what's not. What the infrared camera does is it picks up on the fact the blower door is taking air out of the house. the air outside has more than 20 degrees difference between the air inside. In fact, it's probably 30 degrees outside. It's about 70 inside. We got a 40-degree temperature difference. Everywhere we see these purple spots, we're drawing cold air into the house. So it's pretty simple to go around and simply look for the dark spots to tell us where that air is coming in. It took us about 15 minutes to let those building materials come to temperature, but now as we go around, it becomes very evident where the leaks are. So windows and doors typically they're going to have some leaks, but all windows have a very low R value. But look at the outlet next to the door. Probably be a good idea to seal that outlet, considering it's as dark as the metal fixtures on the door or the hardware on the door, which is going to be the coldest spot on that wall. So we've got the blower door going, and what you can see is up here at the ceiling level, we've got some areas that didn't quite get sealed, the connection between the ceiling joists and the wall. But take a look at the cabinet over the top of the microwave. We would expect the vent itself to have or to show leakage from the outside, but the cabinet itself around it, we can actually see that leakage. Now, where I'm talking about is right along here. And if we feel inside here, we can actually feel the cold air coming in. Let's take another look at that now that we've got the door open, and we might be able to isolate where some of that's coming from. Take a look at the cold inside that cabinet now that we've got the door open. So we haven't run the blower door long enough to have the cabinet doors actually get as cold as they would be. But you can tell there's a lot of leakage going on up in that area. Let's look for some more. So when we consider thermal bridging, you'll notice we can actually see the joist in the ceiling. We can see every one of the 2x4s as we go down the wall. Yes, we can see some leakage points, especially where the ceiling joist meets the wall. That's where we're seeing the leakage points, and that's because the wood isn't perfect. But notice the thermal bridging that we see. And when we get to that outside corner, we have an uninsulated corner on the house. The wall I'm looking at now, the reason I'm focusing on this so much is we're actually looking at the garage wall back here. The garage wall is the most important wall to have sealed. The main reason for that is we start our cars in the garage, and we do not want carbon monoxide coming into the space from there. Low-level carbon monoxide can cause fibromyalgia, migraines, things like that. One of the most important things for you to check when you go out is to make sure you really look, or give a good hard look, at the garage wall connection. We want that sealed every time. So what you'll notice here is we're actually having cold come from the top plate all the way down to the outlet here on the wall. Yes, we've got another corner where we've got leakage, but you can see here sealing that outlet would actually prevent that from having a place to come out. So what we're looking at is the bath fan. And more often than not, bath fans tend to get installed with a metal tape that doesn't last, or various methods that just don't keep it air sealed. So when you go into the attics, especially after you find something like this, you want to pay extra attention to the bath fans and get those reconnected so that they're completely sealed, and also seal around the top of it from above or below. That way you can isolate that and stop the leakage from coming in. This is one of the darkest spots we've seen in the house so far. Okay, so here we are in the basement, and you'll notice a couple of things. There is a return down here in the basement, there's supply down here in the basement, but what we don't have is finished walls. The one thing they did do that I think is great is they actually sealed every single bay up here at the rim joist. You'll notice we've got foam bead going all the way around and foil-faced insulation. What we're going to do now is double check the job they did. So the corner here obviously still needs some attention to detail. They didn't get it quite sealed up there. And as we go down the bays, you're going to notice there's still spots. There's not a lot of them. They did a pretty good job. But this bay right here, We've got a lot of opportunity, and I can actually feel the cool air coming in from that particular spot. So even though someone's already done the work, there are going to be times you're going to want to come back and check what someone did so that you can actually get the rest of what's coming through. We're going to finish looking at the basement, and we'll go upstairs and fix the attic hatch. Up here where the building paper comes through, we don't have a good air seal. You can see that that's another leakage point coming into the basement. So right here, where the electrical service panel comes in and all the wires go in a chase up towards the top of the house, we've got a chase here and a chase of wires there, or a hole for wires there. This one, because it's on an outside wall, you'll notice we've got leakage coming all the way in on both, and this pipe is leaking down into the electrical panel. But around the pipe, we can't really fix this, but we can certainly reseal around the pipe up there and get the rest of the leakage that we feel coming into this area. So we found a hole that at one point had a pipe going through it. But I want to show you something else, because people want to know where to seal up and things like that. Take a look at that hole, and if we can get a good enough shot, you're going to notice spider webs in it. Spiders are always looking for places with airflow because that's where other bugs will come in. It's natural for them to find food there. If you see spider webs, you've probably found an area that you're going to need to air seal. That's another one we're going to give some attention to. So in this area, we feel a lot of cold air. So we want to spend some extra time looking, but it really doesn't take long when we look at the fact the casement window is not meeting the concrete. It's not sealed in here. We can see some spider webs in here. In fact, you can feel cold air coming through right here just by putting your hand up to the wall. So as we look up, also, the insulation did not get pushed all of the way in. So I'm guessing we've got some air sealing to do there. But take a look at this from an infrared perspective. As we get up to the top of this window, we have some very obvious air leakage, both up at the top plate and down by the window. So we're going to want to pay some special attention to this area. It really is probably our #1 leakage area. Here we can even see the concrete changing color from the blower door test. Looks like our leakage is greater on this side of the window than the other. And sure enough, we can feel the cold air coming out. It's not even at the biggest part of the gap. It's down here where the smallest is. Before we can seal this, we got to think a little differently. A lot of us really aren't into cleaning, but the truth of the matter is this gap's been here for many years. There is actually a lot of dust inside here. Be a good idea to vacuum it out, wipe it out, do whatever we can before we go to fill that with caulking or whatever we're going to use to seal that. So here we are looking at the largest hole in the ceiling on this house. And as you can tell, we've got quite a bit of leakage coming through. You can see where the heat's trying to hold on in the center. This is an insulated attic hatch. But what it doesn't have is an attic hatch cover that will isolate the attic from the space. So we certainly have a lot of leakage coming out of this. That's something we're going to fix today, and then we're going to take another picture of it. Okay, so we're in the closet where the hatch is for the attic. I have here a radiant barrier style double bubble attic hatch cover that actually has a zipper in order to get into the attic. So if we were looking at it from below, what I've got, let me turn this around so you can see it. What I've got here is a zipper that you unzip in order to get into the attic space. Well, I want this to be insulated. So we got one that actually has strapping on it, which will allow me to take this additional batt insulation from the top of the old attic hatch cover and place it onto this. That's going to give us additional R value, and then I'm still going to use this old cover in the hole. So I'm actually adding rather than subtracting. So I'll go ahead and get that done, and then we'll get this installed. Okay, so we have it pushed up into place, but I want to make sure that people don't walk up into a wall. Right here, I have a wall that would prevent them from being able to get into the attic. So I've actually placed the zipper over to this side, which is the wide open part of the attic. So what we're going to do, there's a lip here and a lip here. I'm just going to install right above these two lips and go around the framing. So I'm not going to get a perfect seal, but that's why I brought the caulking and the stapler. So let's go ahead and get this puppy in here. Oh, this is toasty up here. I am loving this. So let's go ahead and open this just to make sure. Whoa! It's like the North Pole. All right, so as you can see, we've got a pretty good access here to allow the homeowner to get into the attic, to have people come up here and work on the attic or add more additional insulation. So let's go ahead and finish out this installation. We're going to go ahead and zip this back up, clean up our caulking around the edge, and we'll put some spray foam or some canned foam in these areas where we don't have an exact match because of the framing on this. So we've got our canned foam and we're sealing all of the little spots that are going to make it around what we just installed. That way we've got a good tight seal and nothing leaking through. All right, so we've got our hatch cover installed right here. Everything's zipped up. All we have to do is put this back. And now we can take a look at it with an infrared camera. Let's get our camera. So we've completed our job. The hatch cover is installed. And now we've got kind of a different problem. I had accidentally set the hatch cover in a room next to one of the heat registers. So when we actually look at this in place, even though it's up in the ceiling, it's not only better insulated, but it's kind of warming the area. But as you can tell, we no longer have a cold spot sitting up there. So there you have it. We've fixed the largest hole in the ceiling. We've evaluated the rest of the house. At this point, we can go back and decide whether to do the other areas or whether to leave those alone. We went ahead and took the rest of the foam that we had and sealed around that basement window. But the real learning lesson here is the fact that we can do this, we can do it in a short time, and the right tools make the job so much better. Everyone understands what's going on with this property, and what we did was the right thing rather than just simply trying to throw things at it and hoping that those would work better. Hopefully this helps you with your business, helps you grow, makes you better with your customers, and able to go get those retrofit jobs. I'm Ken Allison with IDI, and we look forward to earning your business every day.